So Lesley Stahl at 60 Minutes had Marjorie Taylor Greene on, and they tweeted this out. This is the tweet from 60 Minutes. Georgia Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, nicknamed MTG, isn't afraid to share her opinions, no matter how intense and in your face they are. She sits down with Lesley Stahl this Sunday on 60 Minutes. And you know why they did that? Because they want to get ratings. That's why they did that. And that's why they have her on. Because they want to get ratings. Right? That Marjorie Taylor Greene has very little power. She is a congressperson. But as far as congresspeople go, she's a first-time backbencher.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. And so they tweet out these pictures of her, and they make her. So now the liberals, the Hillary and the Joe Biden voters are going crazy that they did this.
Because 60 Minutes is their territory, and they have built a wall.
Yes. And they're normalizing her. That's what.
Yeah, basically she smuggled an illegal immigrant into their society by having her on 60 Minutes.
That's it. This is it. So in fact, this guy Eric, this guy's from NPR. He's their media critic. He said eventually even 60 Minutes has to go for the ratings and page views, I guess.
Unlike NPR that nobody wants.
Eric, they've always done that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
When has 60 Minutes not gone for the ratings? They've always been in the top 10 shows. I don't know if lately. I don't know.
If you look at old 60 Minutes, go back and look at old 60 Minutes, how idiotic and wrong they are about almost every.
Remember they were the ones who pioneered the ambush interview.
Oh, really?
60 Minutes. When I was a kid, they used to ambush them, people that they couldn't get interviews with. They would accost them on the street with a camera. That was them.
And ask them what a woman is.
And so this guy's pretending like they never went for ratings before.
Hey, remember when NPR was not as awful as it is currently because it wasn't a complete corporate.
Yeah, this guy, by the way, this guy who works for NPR he's like the Brian Stelter of NPR.
Yeah. Oh,
and so,
God.
So he's like their media critic. And dude, there's nothing worse than NPR. Nothing worse than NPR. Okay. With an ideologue like Marjorie Taylor Greene being profiled by 60 Minutes is what matters. What the story says, much less so. And I learned that in part by listening to Lesley Stahl talk about how the Reagan administration reacted to a story she did.
That's priceless.
So you learn the important part is not what is being said, but who says it and on what platform.
Right.
But not what they're saying.
True or false doesn't really matter, which is strange.
So so what they're doing, this is Lesley Stahl's version of Boogaloo Boy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You're not allowed to interview someone or talk to platform them and make them seem like a normal person. You're not allowed to do that. And he's there he's a narrative enforcer. That's why this guy, Eric Deggans, he's an establishment tool, narrative enforcer, and that's what he's doing. And he's pretending like somehow he's better than Lesley Stahl.
I mean, I cannot wish enough awful on whoever came up with the term platforming or deplatforming. Like it was one of the worst of all the ideas.
You interview everybody. They interviewed
Bin Laden.
They interviewed Bin Laden for F's sake on 60 Minutes.
So they did
on
Saddam
60
Hussein.
Minutes. They interviewed the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Putin.
On 60 Minutes, they interviewed the Ayatollah Khomeini. I remember that when I was a kid. Because Mike Wallace caught shit for it because he was too nice to Ayatollah Khomeini.
Right. And you, the people watching, are so stupid. You shouldn't even be, even if the guy's like, but isn't that wrong, Ayatollah Khomeini? You're not even qualified to listen to that. That should be a closed hearing.
Yes.
And you just listen to whatever we tell you.
Well, Jill Lawrence says, "Oh, Lesley, the American people don't listen to what you say. They only see those great pictures of Ronald Reagan. It's all about..." So she's quoting a story that Lesley Stahl did, and someone said that to her. They don't care what you say in the story as long as the pictures look pretty of Ronald Reagan. So she's quoting that.
I think they're really a little off on that.
That was part of the PR. I remember that time of Ronald Reagan. That's when I became politically aware. And they did talk about it was all about the photo op. They didn't really care about what the guy was saying. That's what they claimed anyway. And they always had these great photo ops of him looking presidential.
Right.
And they didn't care what the reporter was saying underneath the visual.
Right.
It wasn't the guy just saying it to the camera. It was they're showing a pretty visual of Ronald Reagan doing something presidential, and they're saying bad stuff underneath the visual, and no one cared. And so that's what they're trying to remember. But this was an interview. So this is totally different, and they're trying to pretend. So you should never talk to a member of Congress if you're on 60 Minutes. This is what they're saying. You should never, ever interview certain members of Congress, someone who represents 1 million people.
Because they don't count, number one, those people that would like her. They're the worst people, right? Yeah. Also, they've all just conceded, well, the news is basically always propaganda, and basically what you're supposed to be is a big campaign ad. And we're campaigning early. I don't know if you've seen our AstroTurfed YouTubes and what have you. And so that would be as crazy as if Biden started making campaign ads with Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're really dropping the ball doing your job. Your job's supposed to be to make sure the outcome that we want is happening. Right. Yeah.
So you want? Hey, I'll skip this, but real fast. Frank Conniff makes a return to the show. He says, Lesley Stahl is such a shitty journalist. Executives at Dominion Voting Systems are wondering why they haven't sued her yet. Now, that's a good joke. That's a solid joke, even though I don't agree with the political sentiment. I think that's so... I wish more people, if they disagreed with Lesley Stahl, would do it like Frank and do it in a funny way. So, because that's funny. That's funny. Here's someone else says, 60 Minutes, Lesley Stahl really called terrorist Marjorie Taylor Greene smart and fearless. Praised her clout, bragged she is a close advisor to Kevin McCarthy, complimented her for being famous and a celebrity. CBS, you just flushed your reputation down the toilet, says Lindy Lee. Gets 22,000 likes on that. What do you think of that? What does she mean, just? Just flushed your reputation down the effing... What do you mean, just?
I thought it was well into the pipes by now before this...
Norman Ormenstein says, I have known Lesley Stahl for more than 40 years, worked alongside her for many election weeks. She has been a great journalist, but this is a disgraceful, cringeworthy performance. Shameful to the max.
Shameful to the max?
Like, that's not more shameful to say that phrase? Why don't you say it's grody? Grody to the max. Did Lesley not say, oh, God, loud enough for something?
Yeah,
I'll show it to you. Yeah. So here's the last one. Mary L. Trump.
The good Trump?
The good Trump. Lesley Stahl's interview isn't a one-off atrocity. It's just one symptom of the media turning a blind eye to fascism.
Go on.
Fascism. In just the last 2 weeks alone, the mainstream media have refused to recognize the threat posed by the Republican Party and its de facto leader, Donald Trump. First, they based an entire week of reporting and analysis on Donald's social media post that falsely claimed he was going to be arrested on March 21st. Then 60 Minutes made the confounding decision to give a platform to insurrectionist and fascist Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh my God, Kurt, she's an insurrectionist and a fascist. She's a fascirectionist. The Republican Party has fallen in line behind Donald, and now that indictments against him have been announced, they will stop at nothing to undermine the American people's faith in the rule of law.
Are you...
What? That indictment is what wrecks everyone's faith in the rule of law.
Who had faith in that?
By the way, who did? No one did.
Oh my God.
No one ever had faith in the rule of law in this country. Okay. Again, George Bush, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Dick Cheney, they're all war criminals.
Look, but undermine the American people. You see the faith? There's always this faith element.
The Republican Party has fallen in line between the time of stop. Attacks on children. But just as they did in 2016, the media keep giving Donald millions of dollars worth of time. It's time for the media to take sides. Democracy or fascism.
It shouldn't be that effing hard.
It shouldn't be that effing hard. Yet it is.
I guess because all their money comes from. You know what it reminds me of? It's almost like Trump, the media, like that idiot that used to run the Today Show that had made The Apprentice.
Yes.
They did like gain of function research on Trump. They get a gain of Trumption in a lab. He leaked out. They got hysterical. They made billions making people hysterical about being infected by Trump. It turned out he mostly affected obese and elderly people. And then, and it's amazing. They gave him an extra function. He wasn't president. They created him. Oh my God.
In vivo.
And then blame it on you after they did it.
That's right. Yes.
And make up all these other things like a pangolin caused Trump.
So, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on the 60 Minutes and she said stuff and it's driving people crazy. And here we go. Watch this.
Ask you a question back. Why can't we push for a peace deal in Ukraine? But then,
so Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on 60 Minutes and she says she wants peace in Ukraine, and the reporter pushes back against peace in Ukraine.
Wait till you hear her moronic, Lesley Stahl's moronic thing where I'm like, Lesley, are you just the voice of the idiot audience that likes 60 Minutes still? Or do you think what you just said sounds right?
Let's
what
listen.
says.
Let's listen.
ask you a question back. Why can't we push for a peace deal in Ukraine?
But then
why is war the only answer?
The Russians will be rewarded with territory for invading a country.
Or, I'm sorry, Ukraine is not the 51st state of the United States.
No, but is it right to let him attack another country that's not at war with them? And then you say, just let them take what they've gotten so far.
First of all, again, she misframes the whole goddamn thing. This was a provoked war because the government of Ukraine were killing by the thousands Russian-speaking people in the eastern part of Ukraine, which used to be part of Russia. And so they did this on purpose. Of course, Lesley Stahl's not going to tell you any of that. But I think it's hilarious when she says, are we just going to let them? she says, are we just going to let them invade another country? What the fuck? Is the United States the world's George Zimmerman or something?
Yeah, right.
What are we out there patrolling other people's neighborhoods? What the? There's a European Union. They could take care of this if they wanted to. And by the way, if it wasn't for us, there would have been peace in Ukraine a fucking year ago. In fact, there probably would have never been a war, Lesley, and 100,000 Ukrainians wouldn't be dead.
Yeah, like rather than rewarding them for taking, you could reward a bunch of Ukrainians with their lives and not fighting to the last man because a few, Nazi militias are rabid about it.
Should we let them?
The arrogance of that.
The arrogance of that. Like, it also implies that we have authority in the world, some kind of moral authority in the world. We just killed 1 million people in Iraq. We just killed another, how many people in Libya? 20 years in Afghanistan. We're committing a genocide in Yemen. We're not even
as good as corrupt cops.
We're not. And we're currently occupying a third of Syria. But that's okay for us to just illegally invade another country, occupy it, steal their natural resources, but we can't let Putin do it?
She sounds like George Zimmerman on the 911 call. When the Ryan one's like, no, don't run over there. Just wait. He goes, they're always getting away with it. And he just ran over and caused a tragedy.
That's right. We are not the world's moral authority. What the United States is we're more of an armed, fat, violent neighborhood watch idiot. So she is the one saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is advocating for peace. The journalist from CBS News is advocating for more war. Boy, have things turned around since Vietnam, am I right?
Was Lesley Stahl, did she do good work at one point?
So, who knows? Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member, too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.